There's something strange about attraction. It runs from need, but returns to presence. The more you chase, the more it slips through your fingers. The more you try to impress, the less real you become. But when you let go, when you stop forcing, stop proving, stop performing, something shifts. You begin to radiate a different kind of power, not loud, not showy, but unmistakable. People turn to look, not because you're demanding their attention, but because your stillness speaks louder than noise ever could. That's the paradox. You become irresistible when you stop trying to be, not because you've given up on love, but because you've rooted yourself so deeply in who you are that love recognizes you without a single word. It's not a trick, it's not a pickup line, it's not even about getting anyone. It's a return to self-respect, to self-command, to the timeless wisdom of the Stoics, who taught that love is not something you earn by reaching outward. Love is something you invite by standing still in your own truth. And when you stop chasing, you begin to attract. The Stoic secret to being loved without begging for it. In a world that rewards performance, the idea of not trying seems reckless. We're told make them laugh, say the right thing, look the part, text back faster, be more this, less that. But what if the most attractive thing you could do was nothing, not passive, not careless, but still like a mountain. Still like a fire that does not chase, yet draws others in. Still like someone who knows their worth and no longer needs to barter for love. This is the Stoic way. Marcus Aurelius never spoke of how to seduce, but he wrote endlessly on how to live with dignity, how to stand strong in your soul, how to let go of needing what's outside of your control, including whether someone chooses you. Epictetus said, "Want only what depends on you, let the rest go." And strangely, it is this letting go, not the grasping, that makes someone unforgettable. Because when you no longer try to manipulate how others see you, when you stop trying to be chosen, you begin to choose yourself. And in that quiet choosing, people feel it. They feel your peace, your clarity, your strength. They sense that you're not empty, looking to be filled. You're already full, and that fullness invites them to stay. In this video, we're not going to teach you tricks. We're going to walk a deeper path. A wiser one, a path where love is not something you win, but something you reveal by becoming whole. And that journey begins the moment you stop trying. The moment you remember, you were never meant to perform love. You were meant to embody it. Part 1. Stop performing. Start being. So now that we've stepped into the quiet truth, that you become irresistible when you stop trying, the first shift is not in what you say or even how you look. It's in who you are when no one's watching. Because most people aren't falling in love with the real you. They're falling for the version you think they want. The polished version, the performed one. But love doesn't last when it's built on a character you can't sustain. There's a story whispered in the old villages of a young woman who wore masks of every color. She had a smile for the bold, silence for the mysterious, cleverness for the proud. And everywhere she went, people adored her for a moment, but none of them stayed, because no one truly knew her. Not even herself. One day, she sat by the fire, exhausted, not from rejection, but from the weight of the masks. And there, in her stillness, someone approached. Someone who didn't need her to sparkle, or dance, or prove. They sat with her silence, and for the first time she was seen without performing. This is what the Stoics understood. Presence is more powerful than pretense. You don't need to entertain someone to be loved. You don't need to rehearse your laugh or perfectly angle your head or know the clever thing to say next. You don't need to become the most impressive person in the room. You need to become the most rooted, because the truth is, everyone is tired of performance. Tired of guessing what's real, tired of trying to impress and be impressed. And when you stop performing, you offer a rare kind of relief. You offer stillness, honesty, breath. You offer something that feels real in a world of copies. And that's when love doesn't just notice you, it exhales beside you. Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Don't argue your worth. Be it. Don't defend your beauty. Embody it. Don't explain your value. Live it quietly, fully, and without apology." Because when you stop proving, something magical happens. You become magnetic without trying. You become warm without acting. You become the kind of person others want near, not for what you do, but for who you are when you stop doing. You become the calm in someone else's storm. And love doesn't cling to the loudest voice or the flashiest charm. It drifts toward the one who feels steady, rooted, real. So ask yourself, where are you still performing? What parts of you are polished to please? What moments do you shrink yourself to avoid judgment or inflate yourself to be admired? And what would happen if you stopped? What would happen if you spoke slower, softer? If you laughed when it rose, not when it was expected? If you sat quietly in a room and didn't try to shine, but simply let your presence glow on its own? Because the truth is, the person meant to love you is waiting to meet the version of you that doesn't need the stage. And maybe, just maybe, that person is closer than you think. But they'll only recognize you when you do. So take the mask off, lay it down gently. Not in shame, but in strength. Let love meet you where you are, not where you pretend to be. And in that moment, the performance ends, the presence begins. And something real, something lasting, finally has space to grow. Part 2. Emotional self-control is magnetic. Once you stop performing, you begin to notice something strange, something powerful. You stop trying to win others over. You stop spilling yourself into every conversation, every reaction, and slowly, a different kind of energy begins to rise within you. A quiet strength. A calm that does not tremble under pressure. And that calm is magnetic. Because in a world where most people leak emotion like a cracked jar leaks water, stillness becomes irresistible. There's an old tale of a stonecutter who worked in silence, shaping marble in the heart of a storm. The wind howled, the rain fell. Crowds ran for shelter, but the stonecutter stayed unmoved. A noblewoman passed by, soaked and frantic, and paused at the sight. She asked, "Why do you not hide from the storm?" And he replied, "The storm is out there. I live in here." She never forgot his face. This is the gift of emotional self-control. Not suppression, but sovereignty. It's not about pretending nothing touches you. It's about refusing to be ruled by everything that does. When someone yells and you don't flinch, when someone tests you and you don't chase approval, when life pushes you and your heart stays seated like an old oak in deep soil. That is deeply attractive because most people don't feel safe, not even inside themselves. They don't trust their own reactions. They fear rejection, rage, abandonment, disappointment. They look for someone steady, someone they can lean into without fear of collapse. And when you walk into a room carrying your own peace, like a lamp that does not flicker with the wind, they notice. They don't know why they're drawn to you. They just feel it, because calm is the rarest language. And once you speak it, hearts turn toward you without knowing why. Epictetus said, "Any person capable of angering you becomes your master." But the Stoic isn't a servant of emotions, he's a steward of them. He feels the fire, but he does not throw it. He feels the wave, but he does not drown in it. And in love, this changes everything. Because while passion burns bright, it is calm that makes love last. Not indifference, not coldness, but an inner warmth that doesn't spill recklessly. You don't panic when they're distant. You don't lash out when they disappoint you. You don't beg or cling or crumble. You feel, you process, you stay rooted. And in that grounded presence, the other person breathes deeper. You become the person they didn't know they needed, not because you're perfect, but because you don't need them to fix the storms inside you. You've already tended to those winds yourself. And what's more irresistible than that? Not beauty, not charm, not wit, but a kind of internal gravity, a presence that says, "I am whole here. You may join me, but I do not need you to fill me." So ask yourself, who governs your emotions? Is it the fear of losing someone, the rush of being desired, the sting of being misunderstood? Or is it you? Can you hold space for your joy and your sadness? Can you feel deeply, but respond wisely? Because this quiet self-control is not weakness. It is strength dressed in patience. It is fire that does not scorch, but warms. And those who truly seek connection will find themselves drawn to it. They will feel the safety, the gravity, the mystery, and they will know, not through your words, but through your composure, this is someone who has walked through the storm and learned to live above it. And that, my friend, is unforgettable. Part 3. Speak less, mean more. And as emotional self-control becomes your anchor, you begin to notice something else. You don't need to speak as much, not because you don't have anything to say, but because your presence now carries what words once tried to compensate for. In a world that chatters, silence becomes power. There's an old story of a quiet man who lived on the edge of a noisy village. He never shouted, never argued. When he spoke, it was only when necessary and only what was needed. People would visit from far away, not to hear him speak, but to feel what he said without saying it. Because there is a kind of magic that lives in restraint, a kind of gravity in a man or woman who does not throw words like petals into the wind, but weighs them like gold. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Don't waste time talking about what it means to be a good man. Be one. Don't speak your values, live them. Don't explain your depth, embody it. Don't convince others of your worth. Move in a way that proves it quietly. There is a calm power in those who don't need to fill the air with sound. They create a space, wide and still, where others feel drawn to lean in. Because when you speak less, others listen more. You're no longer scrambling to be understood. You're no longer over-explaining, oversharing, overcompensating. Instead, you become deliberate, measured, precise. When you compliment someone, it lands. When you speak your truth, it echoes. When you ask a question, it opens something inside them. You've become a tuning fork for clarity. And clarity, especially in the fog of modern connection, is rare. And rarity creates value. Think of those who've captivated you. Was it their endless talking, or was it how they paused before they spoke? Was it their cleverness, or the way they looked at you, fully present and let the moment breathe? People remember not how much you spoke, but how they felt in your presence. And oddly enough, what they feel most is often shaped by what you withhold, because restraint is a form of reverence. It tells the other person, I don't need to dominate this space. I am secure enough to let silence speak too. It says, I trust myself and I trust you to not need filler between us. And in romance, this is rare. We're used to performance, persuasion, pursuit, but the Stoic way is different. It doesn't chase. It doesn't flood. It doesn't flatter for favor. It lets each word matter. It lets each gaze carry intention. It lets the moment unfold rather than be forced. So speak when it matters. But let your stillness speak too. Let your posture say what your mouth doesn't. Let your energy hold the weight of your presence. Let your pauses become invitations rather than absences. You don't need to impress. You need to be felt. And for that, fewer words often go further than many, because when you speak less but mean more, the other person doesn't just hear you, they feel you. They remember you. And in a world saturated with noise, you become unforgettable for your quiet. Part 4. Value yourself first, and others will follow. So when your words become fewer and your presence grows deeper, something ancient begins to awaken within you. A sense of quiet worth, not the kind of worth that boasts, not the kind that needs applause, but the kind that sits like a stone hearth, solid, still, and warm to those who come near. Because no one truly falls for someone who chases. They fall for the one who doesn't need to chase. There's an old fable of a man who walked through the market, offering his heart to anyone who would take it. He carved it into songs, polished it with compliments, scattered pieces of it into every smile he gave, yet he always returned home alone. One day, weary from giving, he stopped. He sat under a tree by the edge of the village and said nothing, offered nothing. But in that stillness, people began to come. Not because he was louder, richer, more clever, but because he was whole. This is what the Stoics understood. True attraction begins with self-respect, not pride, not arrogance, but the simple, steady belief, I am enough. Enough to be loved without begging, enough to be noticed without performing, enough to be chosen without chasing. When you value yourself truly, quietly, you move differently. You don't tolerate disrespect. You don't settle for scraps. You don't bend to be liked. And that is powerful. Because others will treat you the way you treat yourself. If you constantly doubt your worth, they will too. If you hide your brilliance so others feel safe, they will learn to ignore your light. But if you carry yourself with quiet honor, if you protect your time, your peace, your energy, something shifts. People begin to mirror your respect, not always instantly, not always perfectly, but the signal is clear. This person knows who they are, and that kind of knowing draws others closer. You become someone they want to earn, not someone they take for granted. Seneca once said, "The first step toward wisdom is knowing what you will not tolerate. Know what cheapens your spirit. Know what drains your fire. And walk away from it, not with anger, but with calm. Because when you refuse to betray yourself, love begins to feel safe around you. Safe to be real. Safe to stay. Safe to grow. Self-value is not a barrier. It is an invitation. It says to the world, come if you will, but come with respect. It says to love, I am ready to receive you, but I will not beg for you. And this is what makes you radiant, not desperation, not endless giving, but the quiet glow of someone who has returned home to themselves. So ask gently, do you treat yourself the way you wish others would? Would you want to date someone who speaks to themselves the way you speak to yourself? Would you admire someone who chases so hard they forget their own feet? Or would you fall for someone who stands still, rooted, kind, clear? You already know the answer. because we all long for someone who belongs to themselves first. And when you become that person, you don't have to force love. It finds you because it finally recognizes you. You've stopped trying to be enough and started realizing you already are. Part 5. Let go of neediness, desire without clinging. And once you begin to value yourself deeply, without apology, something inside you loosens. You stop holding love like a lifeline. You start holding it like a gift. Because what suffocates love is not the lack of feeling, it's the weight of need. There's a quiet tale from the old northern woods of a girl who caught a sparrow in winter and brought it into her cabin. She fed it, warmed it, sang to it, but she feared it would leave, so she kept it close, tied by a silken string. The sparrow lived, but it never sang again. Love, like that bird, does not bloom under fear. It does not sing in a cage, no matter how golden. This is the heart of Stoic wisdom, to desire with clarity, not cling with fear. The Stoics never taught detachment as coldness. They taught freedom, to love without owning, to care without controlling, to want someone deeply without making them responsible for your inner weather. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Receive without pride, let go without attachment, and that is how you stop smothering the thing you long for." Neediness is not longing, it's forgetting who you are without what you crave. It whispers, "If they don't stay, I am less." It says, "If they pull away, I will collapse." But the Stoic inside you says otherwise. It says, "I can desire someone completely and still remain whole if they walk away." That is not numbness. That is courage. And ironically, it is this inner spaciousness that makes others feel most drawn to you. Because when people sense you are not afraid of losing them, they feel safe enough to stay. Not out of obligation, but out of choice. The most magnetic people are not the ones clinging to love. They are the ones creating space for it. They are not watching the phone. They are not decoding every message. They are not afraid to sit with uncertainty. They simply hold themselves so well that others want to be held there too. This doesn't mean apathy. It means presence. It means being fully here when you're with someone and fully whole when you're alone. It means enjoying the fire, but not chasing the smoke when it moves. It means saying, "I want you, but I do not require you to complete me." Can you feel how freeing that is? When you let go of needing them, you make room for choosing them. And that choice, freely made, free from fear, is what makes love feel real. You are not a beggar of connection. You are a sovereign giver of it. You offer love like an open hand, not a closed fist. You stay not because you must, but because it feels right to stay. And if they go, you do not collapse, you breathe. You grieve perhaps, but you remain intact, because the self you built was never made to depend on anyone else's shadow. So loosen your grip. Let love breathe. Let go of the pressure to hold it all perfectly. Let go of the script that says they must behave a certain way for you to feel safe. Instead, come home to your center, the part of you that is already enough, already full, already steady, and in that space, you no longer chase. You invite. You no longer need. You choose. And there, in that quiet shift, love rises, not because you clung to it, but because you finally gave it room to land. Part 6. Love with intention, not attachment. And once you've learned to let go of neediness, once you've made space in your chest for desire to breathe, you begin to feel the difference between love that binds and love that guides. The Stoics didn't teach us to run from love. They taught us to purify it. To love without losing ourselves. To give fully, but not fall apart when the giving is not returned. Because intention gives love its strength. Attachment tries to trap it. There's a quiet story, nearly forgotten, of a candle maker in the hills. He made a candle for the one he loved, not to keep them, but to light their way. He never begged them to stay, but every night he placed the candle in his window and left it burning. Years passed. Lovers came and went from the village, but the one who saw that light, steady and unwavering, knew exactly where to return. That is what it means to love with intention. To say with your actions, I choose you, not because I fear losing you, not because I need you to complete me, but because I honor what this connection could be. And if you return, it will not be because I clung to you. It will be because the light I offered never flickered in the winds of doubt. Attachment says, don't leave me. Intention says, even if you do, I'll remain whole and wish you peace. Marcus Aurelius taught, when you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to love. He didn't speak of being loved. He spoke of loving, of showing up to life and to people as a gift, not a demand. When we love with intention, we stop trying to extract something from others. We stop measuring love by how often they text back, how deeply they declare, how tightly they hold on. Instead, we begin to measure it by how fully we show up, not to control, but to give, to be, to witness. And this is where your energy becomes undeniable, because you're no longer trying to be everything for someone. You're becoming everything to yourself first. And the love you offer, clear, strong, free, is something rare in this world, something people feel drawn to, not out of longing, but out of respect for your peace. Your depth, your unwavering presence. You aren't reckless with your heart anymore. You don't hand it to someone expecting them to protect your self-worth. You offer it with clarity. Here I am. I care deeply. I desire deeply, and I remain grounded in who I am, with or without you. And yes, sometimes that means people leave. Sometimes it means love doesn't bloom the way you hoped. But that is not a loss. That is a kind of cleansing, a refinement of the soul. The sharpening of your ability to choose only what's worthy of the fire you carry inside. Because when love is grounded in intention, not attachment, it doesn't fear endings. It only fears not showing up fully while it lasts. So let others come and go as they will. You light the candle. You open your heart, you speak when it's true, and you trust the stillness between you and the world to bring back what's meant to stay. This is love without chains, love without collapse, love that leads instead of leans. And that kind of love, offered without fear, without force, is the kind that changes not only relationships, but the soul that gives it forever. Part 7. Build a life that invites love, not chases it. And when you learn to love with intention, not to possess, not to grasp, but to offer, you discover something even deeper. You realize you don't need to chase love anymore. You only need to build a life that love would want to walk into. Because the most irresistible people aren't running after anyone. They're building something worth staying for. There's an old fable, often told when the snow begins to fall, of a gardener who tended his orchard every day, not for visitors, not for praise, but because he loved the soil beneath his feet. He spoke to the trees, he watered in silence, and season after season he never left his land to seek admiration elsewhere. One spring, a traveler passed through, drawn not by invitation, but by the peace that hung like golden dust over the orchard. The traveler didn't ask to stay. They simply never left. That's how real love finds you. Not because you ran after it, but because you were rooted in something real. When you build a beautiful life, rich in meaning, quiet in dignity, full in spirit, love comes not to fix you, but to join you. Most people are chasing partners when they haven't yet built a home within themselves. They keep doors open for others, but leave their own inner house in disrepair. No purpose. No rituals, no discipline, no stillness. And then they wonder why love feels restless, shallow, or short-lived. The Stoics taught the opposite. Become the place peace comes to rest. Fill your days with substance. Wake with purpose, even if it's small. Read for your mind. Move for your body. Create for your spirit. Speak less. Observe more. Rest well. Give without keeping score. Do the things that make you proud when no one is watching. Because when your life is full of meaning, you stop asking someone else to bring it to you. And that's where the power is. You don't demand love, you inspire it. You don't grip. You glow. You're not waiting for someone to bring color into your world. You've painted the walls of your days with your own hands, and those who pass by, they feel it. They feel the warmth in your presence, the steadiness in your rhythm, the gravity in your simplicity. And they begin to wonder, what would it feel like to walk alongside someone like this? Not someone perfect, not someone with all the answers, but someone centered. Someone who doesn't run from loneliness, but meets it like a friend. Someone who doesn't perform, but practices. Someone who isn't just looking to be loved, but is already living a life worthy of love. Seneca once said, associate with people who are likely to improve you. But first, be that person for yourself. Be the kind of presence you'd want to meet on a quiet walk. Be the kind of soul you'd hope your children marry. Be the kind of peace you once begged others to bring. Because when love comes, and it will not come to save you. It will come to join you, and in that moment you'll know you didn't chase this. You called it quietly, steadily, by how you chose to live. You didn't need to go looking. You simply became the kind of person love comes looking for. Part 8. Let rejection refine you, not define you. And even when you've built a life worth loving, rooted, rich, and whole, there will be moments when love doesn't stay. It will leave, sometimes gently, sometimes without warning. And in that silence, your heart will ask the question we all carry inside. Was I not enough? But the Stoic answers softly. You were never meant to be everything for everyone. Because rejection is not a verdict. It is a mirror. A forge, a quiet teacher in disguise. There's an old tale from the darker woods told by those who know winter well, of a blacksmith who crafted a blade for a warrior he adored. He poured all his skill into it, tempered the steel, polished the edge, carved the handle from the wood of his own family tree. When the warrior returned, she held the sword only briefly and left it behind. The blacksmith was shattered. But rather than curse her name or dull his tools, he sat by his forge and began again. He learned new tempering techniques. He found rarer metals. He spoke less and worked deeper. And over time, others came, not for blades alone, but for the quiet fire that now lived in his hands. This is what the Stoics knew. Rejection does not reduce you. It reveals you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. In love, we are not hurt by someone leaving. We are hurt by what we believe their leaving means, that we're not worthy, that we failed, that we'll never be chosen again. But the Stoic sees more clearly. You were not abandoned. You were redirected, not punished, polished. Rejection is not the end of your story. It is the reshaping of it. It humbles the ego, sharpens the spirit, and if you let it, it brings you closer to your own truth. You realize you were never meant to contort yourself into someone else's idea of love. You were meant to stand firm in your essence and trust that what's meant for you will feel like peace, not pressure. So when they don't choose you, bless them, not from bitterness, but from clarity, because you now see that love is not given to the most pleasing, it flows toward the most present. And if someone walks away from your wholeness, your grounded peace, your patient fire, then let them walk. Let them find what they need, and let yourself grow deeper in what you already are. Because nothing shapes the Stoic more powerfully than loss handled with grace. You don't close your heart, you don't turn bitter or build walls. You open wider to yourself, you hold your pain like a teacher, you study its texture. You walk with it gently, and when love knocks again, and it won't find someone desperate or jaded. It will find someone refined. Someone not untouched by heartbreak, but shaped by it, polished like riverstone, quiet like the mountain after a storm. And in that stillness, something beautiful will happen. You will love again, but not from hunger, from overflow, because you've learned the rarest lesson of all. Rejection doesn't define you. It simply hands you the chisel and asks who you're willing to become. And when you answer with courage, you become more radiant than before, not because you were never broken, but because you stayed open anyway. You don't chase love, you become it. Now you see, love isn't something you hunt, it's something you become. Not through tricks, not through charm, but through depth. Stillness, presence. You stop performing. You master your emotions. You speak with clarity, not clutter. You value yourself enough to walk alone and strong enough to welcome another without losing your way. You desire, but do not cling. You build a life, not for show, but for substance. You love with intention and let go without fear. And when rejection comes, as it sometimes must, you do not crumble. You refine, you rise. You return to your center, wiser, fuller, more radiant than before, because the Stoics knew. You don't chase love, you prepare for it by becoming someone rooted, calm, unshakable. You call it not with your hands, but with your soul. And in time, love comes. Not because you begged for it, but because you finally stopped needing it to feel whole. If this stirred something deep in you, leave a single in the comments. That's our signal, silent, strong, unforced, like a light in the window. And if you're ready to walk further into this quiet, powerful way of living, subscribe. Here, we don't chase trends. We return to timeless truths. You don't need to become louder. You need only become more you. The right people will hear it without a word.